Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content that we're going to talk about today is the exact model that every single state should follow in their effort to destroy the gun-controlling left in their little tactic to destroy all gun manufacturers through lawfare, both federal and state level. Because the state that I'm about to show you just took it out to the curb, ground it into the ground, and it is no longer existent, and they took it off the playing field. This is how you win this back. Every state should look at this. It'll all be linked in the description box below. Send it out where you need to send it, and of course, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. And the content today is brought to you by Sportsman's Guide. Now, if you're looking for anything for the upcoming spring, if it's outside, you're going to find it at Sportsman's Guide. They got all the heavy hitters like Irish Setter, Nomad, Vortex. Like I said, if it's outside, you're going to find it at Sportsman Guide. In fact, coming up from the 14th to the 27th, 25% off all Walker ear protection for your outside activities pursuing freedom. Check it out. Thank you so much to them for making this content possible. And now, let's get to the curb stomping freedom over here. Because honestly, this is how you do it right here. Check this out. GOP interference on decades-old gun lawsuit leaves some Indiana residents disheartened and angry. For those at home, that's how you write a leftist-angled article title and topic for consumption, because that's exactly how you motivate the heartstrings of the left, not saying what it really happened. Check this out. Indianapolis, AP. Almost 25 years after suing the firearms industry for failing to prevent illegal gun sales, the northwestern Indiana city of Gary won a critical victory last fall when a judge ordered gun manufacturers to hand over years of production and sales records. Now, wait a minute. Now, one of the things that we do on this channel, if you're new or if you guys are current to this, we focus on the patterns that continue to pop up and tie it back to a why of the gun controllers. Did that last sentence remind you of anything? Years of production and sales records. Well, time's up. Here's what it reminds you of. So you just saw Glock get sued by the city of Chicago in partnership with Everytown for Gun Safety, a national gun control group, and they asked for the exact same things. Production numbers, sales numbers, marketing numbers, distribution numbers, model numbers, everything. Do you think they're all just a hive mind, or do you think this is actually a laid out plan going back 20 and 30 years, and it's just now getting stuffed because the conservative side of the aisle is realizing what they're doing? Let's continue, because it got stuffed right in its track, but this is how you do it. If you're in a gun-friendly state, take notes. But in March, Governor Eric Holcomb signed a new law retroactively banning cities from bringing such lawsuits, effectively halting the case. Republicans said the gun industry is not responsible for illegal sales, and it isn't. They are correct. Critics say the legislation shows lawmakers don't consider ending gun crime a priority and reflects their apathy for Gary's majority black residents. There's gun violence everywhere you turn in America, longtime Gary resident Reverend Dina Holland-Neal said, and someone has to be accountable. Yeah, we call them criminals. It's that simple. If you do something and use a knife or a car or a tool or a box or a hammer or a wrench, whatever you use, you should be held accountable. But all of a sudden, if you use a gun, well, then the gun manufacturer be held accountable. There's some serious gaps in this logic, but that's what the left has been doing. They understand that if you can take out the production chain and the supply chain, then you've effectively achieved gun control. That's what this is. But the governor of Indiana and the Indiana legislature said, we see your game, and we're going to nuke your game. They basically said, hey, retroactively, that lawsuit, yeah, you can't do that anymore because only the state's attorneys can bring the lawsuits if they do something actually wrong, not just because you want a settlement. Again, look at everything that's happening in our states. New York, California, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, Maryland, all these different cities and states that are doing just this because they see a payday. Let's continue. There's a reason all of this stuff comes out piecemeal, but tying it together is massive. Gary is more racially diverse than the rest of Indiana, and sitting just east of Chicago is one of its few Democratic strongholds. Who wants to tell him? Because I'm catching a theme with some of the most violent cities in the nation, and the big theme is, shocker, they're Democrat-run cities. See, the gun control and the lefties thought I was going to say something else. Nope. It's Democratic policies that encourage the type of behavior that we're talking about. Soft on crime, hard on rights. It's not difficult. But again, all of a sudden, the one little hotspot that's democratically controlled as a stronghold in Indiana, surprise, surprise, they have a gun violence problem. And surprise, surprise, they're suing the gun manufacturers to blame other people other than the actual criminals involved. Isn't that weird how this theme continues to pop up? It's about conveying it at this point. It's just communication. But let's continue, and then we'll start to show you what they actually did and how they did it. Gary was among dozens of U.S. cities to sue major gun makers and sellers in reaction to the out-of-control homicide rates and violent crime of the 1990s. But the other cities' cases fell by the wayside, leaving Gary's as the last suit standing when in November, a Lake County judge ordered manufacturers to produce decades of business records. This is the last vestige of gun control litany of lawsuits that came out of the 1990s. This is the last one. This is symbolic. They killed this one, they got nothing left, which inspired and originated all the other gun lawsuits against manufacturers. This is one of the reasons that the PLCAA came into effect, because the left started to do this. Understand, this is a big piece. There's lots of individual components to this, but it makes one big story of defeating gun control. It's easy to see what they're doing, and it looks like Republicans are picking up on it and cutting it off at the pass. Check this out. This is what they actually did. Indiana's Republican-dominated legislature moved quickly to approve the new law this year, stipulating that only the state's attorney general can bring civil action against a firearm or ammunition manufacturer, and made it retroactive to August 27, 1999, 3 days before Gary filed its lawsuit. I'm going to be honest, that one's just petty. They went back 3 days before the lawsuit was filed and made it retroactively enforceable so that they basically cut off this lawsuit at its roots. That's effectively what happened. But again, this is about lawfare. They just went right back to it because they had the law. They can perfectly do this. They can pass the legislature. They had the governor. All of it, perfectly legal. They just cut it off at its roots. Other states, are you paying attention to the fight that's going on? Because this is a pretty big deal. Quote, I just think that there's an effort to try to end this use of the court system as a weapon against gun manufacturers, Jeter said. Jeter is the Republican here. He made no attempt to hide that Gary was his intended target. Quote, this bill is an effort to take one last shot to try to eliminate this last pending case, he said. Well, they did it. Understand, the left is using the lawfare system in order to attack gun rights, gun manufacturers, and gun ammunition manufacturers. So what the right did is they said, oh, you're using the judicial lawfare. Well, we're going to use the legislature of which we have, and we're just going to cut you off at the source. Sounds like checks and balances to me. That's what's happening, and they are not happy about it. But anyway, let's continue, because I'm going to show you who's behind all this thing. Shocker of all shocks, another similarity. This case is and always was frivolous. An abuse of the legal system, Lawrence G. Keene, the senior vice president and general counsel for the group, said in a recent statement. That's for the NSSF. By the way, spoiler, Larry Keene is the guy who actually wrote and helped pass the PLCAA. There's a lot of long-time fights on this. But anyway, let's continue. The Brady Center, a national organization supporting gun control policy, represents Gary in the lawsuit. Philip Bangle, senior litigation counsel, said Brady plans to challenge the new state law. Are you catching a big theme here? It's becoming big gun control groups against state legislatures and state judicial rulings. This is what's happening. Chicago followed the exact same blueprint, and every town for gun safety stepped in. Big, massive national gun control group. Then this one happened 25 years ago or 20 years ago, and Brady, the Brady group, gun control group, was involved in being the senior litigation on that one. Are you catching a theme here? This is a gun control monster. And we're chopping it apart piece by piece, and that's what we're about. Let me know what you guys think in the comments field, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.